Good evening and welcome to the world premiere of the Stone Roses Made of Stone. It's so exciting here tonight. I was just stood within inches of John Squire and I'm stood right next to the men who made this film possible. It is Mr. Shane Meadows and Mark Herbert. How are you both?
I'm very, very good. Before we start, I'd love to say hello, Burton. My sister's in Burton on Trent with 10 of her mates. I hope you made it, Paula. Enjoy it.
Let's hope she got in nice and early, Shane.
Yeah, and I've got to say hello Doncaster and hello Sheffield.
That's because
Crew there that worked on the film, so big shout out.
we've got 200 cinemas around the UK and Ireland tonight who are joining us live. Going to be watching the film all together in unison, and then we're going to be having a bit of a chat after the film as well. So get your questions, and if you've got anything actually that you want to ask these guys after the film, use the hashtag Made of Stone. Right, where do we start with this? Because I just watched you on the red carpet with Ian Brown having your picture taken. How were you able to stand up?
Yeah, it's quite frightening. I'm used to, when I have these kind of premieres, I'm used to trying to fill a few seats, get the last few tickets sold on the day. This thing sold out in 60 seconds, and that was nothing to do with me and him, and a lot to do with them. They're a band that just defy logic. People love them on a scale, and when I thought I was the biggest Stone Roses fan in the world, and then I went to Warrington and met another million just like me.
That's something that people will see when they see this film. Is it's a love story between you, them and the fans, and with them within each other, the band as well.
Yeah, completely. I mean, I remember kissing this girl, the first girl I saw in tie-dye with a sort of artistic temperament, and I managed to get her back to my house and back to my bedroom, and I thought I better start this off softly. I put Waterfall on. She'll think I'm sensitive, and it worked, and we kissed. It stays with you. It stays with you.
That's the reason you wanted to make this film.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of them. Yeah.
But this was a different thing for you guys. This was a different, a different type of film for you guys to make, sort of thing. Well, I guess there was never any question, about whether you would do it or not.
No, I mean, it was we promised each other a break. We were editing This Is England 88 and really struggled right up to the wire. We delivered the last episode the night it was on, and we went straight into this. And in fact, we went to film the press conference while we were editing that. So it was one of those, you can't say no to it, Like Shane said, it's a love, I went travelling in '89, I had 4 cassettes in my backpack when I went to Israel, and one of them was the Stone Roses, and then cut to 23 years later, sat there making a film about them. It's crazy.
Life's mental sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, I do, honestly. It's a Carlsberg job. If they made a Shane Meadows package, it basically would have been the last 2 years of my life. I'm really, really jammy. I keep waiting for something to land on me to make up for the good luck I've had.
But going into this, I mean, did you have a plan? Or I guess with a band like this, you can't really plan that much, can you?
No, and I'm not a documentary filmmaker, so I was dead honest with him, and I sort of said, what you get with me is I won't be able to sit down and tell you now the film I'm going to make, but I will find a story, and I'll find something, I don't know what it is yet. And it wasn't really until I got to Warrington and I saw the other fans. It was like meeting your family you'd never met, and a lot of those people reminded me of characters from the films I'd made. They were saying things that I couldn't have written any better. And it was when we got to Warrington that I realised it needed to be about that relationship. It's like a three-way relationship through a director's eyes to them, back to the fans, because, they're so, the band and the fans have got such an insane relationship that's so rare. I knew that when I saw that, that was where I got the heart of the film.
And it's that thing of, they gave you unprecedented access and stuff as well, but you were still loyal to them as a fan in terms of, there was a type of film that you wanted to make. It wasn't about going back, it's about now and looking forward, really, isn't it?
I mean, when Shane told me, we were on our way to a film festival, Shane Dinard with This Is England 86, and Shane had got the call from Ian in the car. He met me at East Midlands. He said, there's the biggest secret ever. And just the fact that we're getting back together was so, oh my God, thank God for that. So then to be filming it, you're never gonna, we were never, and we set out some, we basically just sort of, we respected their privacy, we let them ask us when we could film, and by stepping back, I feel, by stepping back early, we were letting more, if that makes sense. And it was gradual, but, the trust was built over some time. To the extent then where we got to June and it was like we were part of the crew and it was like, please come to Europe, we're missing you, and no, seriously.
Yeah. You just want them to love you, and one of my worst initial memories was sort of thinking, I can be cool. I've been to Cannes, I can do this. And I went and met them, and they went, come down in the lift with us to the press conference. I stood in, and honestly, the alarm went off because of the weight. So I'm just like, oh, nice one. So if I step out, it's going to stop, and it stopped. And that's when I'll see you downstairs and just wandered off with my big fat belly.
Where were you when you got that call?
I was in a taxi on the way to East Midlands Airport on the way out of Nottingham. And it was one of those rain, drizzly sort of driving to East Midlands Airport, going to a film festival. Ian Brown rang me. And,
Hey, Tomo!
Tomo, come on, baby.
Hey, Tomo! Always got to be the star of the show, that one.
Yeah, so I was on the, and honestly, that car journey, waiting just, I nearly,
It's all right, Tomo, we're live, don't worry.
he's been on the Pro Plus again. Yeah, so, and it was that car journey, I was like bursting, and I'd said to Ian, I'm not going to tell anybody, but I'm going to have to tell Mark, because I'm with him for 3 days, and I'm going to have a smile like there, and he's going to think I'm on something, or I've lost it, so I've got to tell at least him. And I'd said to Mark in a text, I've got something to tell you, no matter how good you think it is, double it, triple it, add about $1 billion, and it lived up to
One
expectations.
of those, it was the hardest. My brother is the biggest Roses fan, and my best mate is. We were 18, I was born in 71, 1889, so they've got loads. And it was the hardest secret to keep. And I just decided, like any secret, I'm not going to tell anyone, not my wife. I didn't tell anybody. Because I knew if I told one person, and if it got out from us, we weren't going to make the film, so.
I did, yeah, it wasn't going to happen on my shift. I sort of said, if it comes out, I'm clean, baby. Yeah.
Well, listen, we're going to chat some more after the film, and if you guys have got anything you want to ask them, then use the hashtag Made of Stone. I've seen it, I've been lucky enough to see it, and, well, you were there as well. I was just, like, buzzing after it. I can't wait to see it again. Congratulations, Mark and Shane, thank you so much. An incredible turnout tonight for this film, for, I guess, so many reasons. Mick Jones joins me now. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Really well. Now, there's a really nice story because Ian and John were in a band in 1980 called The Patrol that was Clash influenced. Did you know about that?
I sort of vaguely know about it. Yeah, I know they were influenced a bit by us, especially in their earlier days, formative days. So I'm very pleased to become friends with them in the later years, the intervening years. Yeah.
From one band member, to another one, in terms of, you're a fan of their music first and foremost, I guess.
I am very much. I think they're a great band, and I think also. The director is fantastic. So, like, we've got Shane Meadows and the Stone Roses. It's like, what's not to be excited about,
A bit like that. Why wasn't he around when they clashed to do One of Us?
Yeah, well, everything happens in its own time, which I'm pleased about.
What do you think it is about the Rosies? Because they're a band who, they only released 2 albums, but their legacy has sustained 30 years. The music's still important, it's still relevant, it's still influential.
I think it's important because they're a generational band, and one come along once in a generation, and they sum up what it was like the lives of not only their own lives but everybody else's lives. As we've seen in Heaton Park, when everybody was like, loved them,
Were you there?
I was there.
Were you?
Yeah.
What was it like?
It was fantastic. Yeah, it was really fantastic.
Look out for yourself tonight.
I don't know, I might see me. If I've got a loop, you know what a loop is? It's like something you look like that.
Listen, it's great to chat to you. Enjoy the film. It's really nice to see you. And the support is out in force tonight. There's loads of cast from This Is England. I'm going to shimmy them over this way if that's like, hey, how are you, Andrew? Really nice to see you. How are you guys?
Good, thanks, Edith. Yeah.
I guess when Shane's got something new coming out, it's a no-brainer because you guys are all like family, isn't it?
Definitely, without a doubt. Anything Shane does will always be there.
He said tonight that when he was filming the gig in Warrington, he came across these Stone Roses fans who he felt like were characters in his films, because the kind of the realness is there, and I guess that's a great sort of compliment to you guys in terms of how you come across in his films, I think. But what's he like to work for?
No, not really.
It's excellent. It's so awesome, yeah.
It lets you create and have freedom, and it's a beautiful thing as you know.
It's mostly worked on improvisation and things like that, so that gives us the freedom to do what we want to do. So,
Tomo Turgus, you get in here and come and chat to us as well. I thought he was about to throw something at us, but he was taking a picture. How are you, fella?
I'm very good. All the better for seeing you, Edith.
We just played out this little clip of 10 years of Warp Films, and it included a clip of the first film when you were like that high.
Now I'm only that big. Now
Were you all aware of Shane's love for the Stone Roses through working with him? Was it?
Yeah. From day dot. When I met him on Romeo Brass, I knew back then. That's when I was actually introduced to the Stone Roses. I never really heard of them because I was only 15 back then, and it was Shane who introduced me to them. So, yeah, big fan, big fan.
And he let it slip this week as well that the gang's getting back together again. Yeah!
Hopefully, yeah, we're hopefully going to do a 90 at some point, which will be
Off for a rave.
yeah, bit of the rave scene.
That'd be fun, wouldn't it?
Listen, we'll let you get in, and thanks for chatting to us, and enjoy the film, and we can't wait to see the next episode in this incredible journey that you're all on. Nice to chat to you all. Thanks so much. Cheers. Cheers, guys. See you later. Now, most of you won't know this gentleman yet. There might be a few in there.
Might do.
Yeah, you got some pals with you tonight?
Yeah, I've come out with Keith Carter off the TV. He's a famous comedian.
There you go.
There's a character called Nige. We are here over the moon, gushing, big fan.
Well, we know that.
No tie. Got a poster that I'm trying to get signed by the 4 original members. Even John Squire's not seen one of these since 1984. The Kennedy Pill supporting. Even Squire's not seen it. And so far, Manny's walked off and not signed it, but we'll get him later.
Get there.
We'll get him inside.
See, I don't know if they've seen the film yet, and if they haven't, then they probably won't. But once they've seen it and they see you in this film, they're gonna seek you out, Simon.
I hope so, because everyone listens to that album every day, every week, in the car, in the van, and it still makes us tingle.
Why? Why is that? Why have this band 30 years later?
And I know, you can't write it down. You know, don't you?
It's a feeling.
You're a fan.
It's a feeling.
Everyone puts it on. Everyone fast forwards Elizabeth My Dear. Everyone listens to the whole album except track 6, Elizabeth My Dear. But it's just a beautiful, glorious, perfect album. It's the closest thing that a modern day band have got to recreating the Beatles at their perfect best in the 90s. It was the right time, the right lads, not where you're from, where you're at.
Do you think any other band since them have been able to achieve that?
Absolutely not.
Do you think any band will be able to achieve that?
No, not the Clarksons anyway, but, no. It was the right time, it was the right generation, it was the first time since punk and probably since Joy Division that a whole youth movement appeared without your parents knowing, without the police knowing, without the government knowing. We all stood in clubs, in fields. We all had a cheeky little secret, and it was the bands, the way of life, it was the mentality, it was the fashion, it was the music. But at the end of the day, who's not listened to Sugar Sponge Sister and got drunk and sung it with pure triumphant glory?
Have you seen the film yet?
I haven't seen the film. I don't even care if we don't get in.
You won't get in? Apart from the band, you're pretty much the star of the show.
I've seen enough. But to a lot of people growing up, it changed direction, it changed the way their lives went. Before idiots wearing shirts tucked into trousers getting into clubs, people just thought, you don't have to wear a shirt, you don't have to wear shoes, you don't have to wear trousers. Why have you got trousers on? Take your shirt out, grow your hair, don't get a job, tune in, turn off.
How did you feel when you found out that they were reforming, that they were going to be doing these gigs?
I thought it had never happened because my brother died in 2000 and we were both very, very big fans. I know that's probably a bit of a downer, but it's something that no one ever thought would happen. I've seen Brown loads of times. I've seen Squire with the Seahorses. I saw the Roses many, many times as a full band, but turn it down, mate. Turn it down. It's something that nobody, including probably yourself, all the industry people, it's something that nobody ever thought would happen. And whether it's because of divorces, money, contracts, haters on forums going, yeah, it doesn't matter. Because the night I saw him at the Power Hall in Warrington on the first night, left my kid at the Childminders, 3 hours later, I've had a punch show, whatever, got to the Warrington Power Hall, seeing Brown, Squire, Manny and Rennie walk on.
Game over.
Nobody thought it'd happen, and it did. It happened that night.
Simon, no one has... this is just a great example of just one of the fans that you're going to see in this incredible film tonight. It's a pleasure to chat to you, sir, a pleasure to meet you, and have a great time tonight. Hello, everybody. How are you? Oh, I feel a bit sick. I'm going to say nothing and get the people who really count to come on this stage and talk to you for a little bit. Please welcome to the stage producer of the film, Mark Herbert. Don't be scared. How perfect is this? The band insisted that you have the premiere in Manchester. I can see why.
Electric. Yeah, I mean, thanks for coming, really. There's a couple of people I need to thank.
Go for
Well,
it.
quite a few. This is a mad story, but basically when Shane told me that Ian had rang him about the band getting back together, we were about to do a massive cycling film that we put on hold, and I rang Film 4 and said, the Roses are getting back together and Shane's going to direct it. Will you fund it? And they said, how long have we got to decide? And I said, about an hour. And an hour later, then Film 4 and 4DVD came back and fully financed the film. So, massive thanks.
Shall we bring some friends on stage?
Yeah, I've just got couple more.
Couple more, okay.
Picture House picked the film up. They've organised tonight with 11:55 Media and Premiere. Big thanks to them. Huge thanks. And the massive thank you, firstly, to the crew. A lot of the crew are here tonight who made the film. There they are. Massive thanks. They shot it. And a huge thanks especially to the Warp team, especially Libby and Cecily and Alex and Niall. Thank you. And I'm going to welcome Shane Meadows.
All right, baby.
How you feeling? How you feeling?
Sorry, what was that?
How you feeling?
This is different. It's a big room. I'm normally used to having to try and get a few extra people into the small cinemas I normally do these things in. So to see something like this, geez, this is incredible. Yeah, I've never seen anything like it. What was that? Yeah, Poirot.
Well,
Yeah.
there was only one man for the job, though, really, wasn't there, for this?
Yeah, I mean, I basically never saw the Roses. I'm from Uttoxeter, which although is only about 45 minutes from here, might as well be a million miles away. You had to have a very special pass just to leave the city gates. And the closest I got to seeing the Roses was I had a poncho from Aztec Palace that had been at one of the gigs. And I got a ticket to go to Spike Island. My friend Rob Leggett from Quicksave got it me, and I had a place in a mini metro on the Saturday morning, and someone gave me an acid tab so evil the night before. The minute I swallowed it, I knew something awful was going to happen to me that night. I went straight to the toilet, put my fingers down my throat, and I couldn't get it back. And then all of the awful things I'd imagined unfolded. And I found myself by Mallows Brook in Uttoxeter with a load of goths and a bonfire. And I gave that ticket away. And yeah, tell me about it. I had a vision of myself getting stabbed by a wolf, and I didn't go. It was very Carlos Costanero. And the next morning, I ran into town when I sort of got a little bit of my soul back, and I ran into town, and Leggett and Fraser and everyone had gone, and I missed it, and it was the biggest regret of my life. But I do think that it was the beginning of me becoming a filmmaker. I realised I couldn't compete with anyone that was taking drugs where I lived. And you know, and the spirit of that band was something the like of which I'd never seen. You know, they basically were from a place like I was from, and they not only took on the establishment, but they told everyone they were the greatest band in the world, and that meant something, you know. And so, you know, basically, I never got to see them, and I never thought I'd be able to make up for that one regret in my life. And then Ian rang me, like Mark said, and obviously there is a God, and he is some kind of relative of mine because he gave me this job, and it was the greatest experience of my life, bar none. So.
Shane?
Yeah.
Would you like to introduce your new friends to everyone?
Yeah. So I've got some new friends. One of them's really poorly, and he can't be here. But the other three that have got all the hair that I want are still here with us. So let me introduce Ian, Manny, and John.
So whilst they have a little, how are you, Ian? You all right, sir?
You all right?
Yeah? Very well. Oh, it's made my night. Yes.
I thought I'd give it another shot out, you know. It's not a courtroom, is it? Yeah, our compadre couldn't make it. He's got a bad cold, bless him. Yeah, but we're there, so that's all that counts. Say what? Can we have this guy thrown out, please? Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I think it's time we started to roll this film because there's a lot of people around the country waiting to see this. We've got 200 cinemas around the UK. We're going to be doing a bit of a quick Q&A after the show, so these guys are not going anywhere. What does he say? He's a mute elephant. Great, perfect. Absolutely perfect. There's the introduction to the film. Ladies and gentlemen, huge round of applause, please, for the makers of the film, Mark and Shane Meadows, and the story of the film, Stone Roses. Enjoy the film. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Mr. Mark Harbert and Shane Meadows. Hey, with beers in hand, that's what I like to see. Yeah, quite right, you might need more. And welcome back to everyone who's watching from around the country. Over 200 cinemas around the UK are joining us right now for this live link-up. Can we have a little bit of hush in this room, please? I'm going to kick things off if that's all right. Shane, I want to know, in that phone call with Ian, what did he ask you? What did he ask you to do?
He basically, the first thing he said was that the Roses were getting back together. And then the next thing he said was that they were doing a press conference and would I want to come and film the press conference? And the whole thing kind of grew on a step-by-step basis, really. I went and met all the guys for the first time at the press conference. And then me and Mark went to a rehearsal, and then that's the first time at a rehearsal that we sat and spoke about making a film.
And did he give you, I don't know, did the band give you any kind of guidance in terms of what they expected and what they wanted from this as a finished product? Did the band give you any kind of indication as to what they expected or wanted as a final product?
No, not massively at all. I kind of went and spoke to the band and said, look, I don't normally make documentaries. It's not really what I do, but I know I'm the right person to make a film about you, because I've always, obviously, I've been in love with the band since I was a kid. And so the band, the only thing the band didn't want to do was they'd just got back together, the friendships had just been reformed. They just didn't want to start the film with a load of interviews about the past. So it was always, from the beginning, meant to be a celebration of the band going forward and coming back,
Was it a daunting prospect in terms of you were going to have to film so many different aspects of, this whole process, whether it be an enormous live event, but then you also cut to this intimacy of these four musicians in a room? And the chemistry that goes, there we go, we can hear ourselves now. The chemistry that goes into making this band long-lasting as they have been.
It was daunting because when we make This Is England or Dead Man's Shoes or any of the films that we've made, we know every day there's a schedule, we know exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
Almost by the minute. We know where the actors are going to be, we know where the camera is, we know what set we're going to, what location. Whereas with this, we kind of, you see me, that's my van, and we're driving, and we didn't know that day what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And we saw the rehearsal board, and that was like Christmas for me and Shane. It was like, oh my God, This is what we're about to hear. So we had some of the funniest days filming ever. The first day filming was with Steve Adge, their ex-tour manager and he led us on a wild goose chase around Glossop, trying to find archive stuff, and it was probably the worst day filming we've ever had. and we sat there about 3 hours later, me and Shane going, "Are we going to have a film here?"
Yeah.
And then you get to the rehearsal space and heard them do what you've seen, and they were like, "That's it. That's, as a Roses fan, that's what I want to see."
Yeah. Well, someone's actually tweeted in a question about that. CM Speak Special K will have a few of these random online names. The rehearsal scenes are so intimate. How did you capture that atmosphere?
It was a weird one, because what happened was, when I first started shooting with the band, I stayed out the way to begin with, and I sat at the back of the room, and I could tell that the footage I was getting wasn't right. I sort of thought, I need to be closer, but I don't want to wander around with a big fat camera. And so I got my iPhone out my pocket. All right, baby! And I got my iPhone out my pocket, turned on this little Super 8 app, and I started walking around when they were rehearsing. And when I realised I needed to be right in the centre of the room, because the way that they looked at each other across the room, all we've ever seen across the history of the band is them playing to a crowd. We've never seen them looking at each other in a cross formation in the way that they've rehearsed all of those years.
Yeah.
And I realised I need to be in the centre. So I sort of told Ian a bit of a white lie and said, I need to get a camera on each person, but I won't have anybody else. Then he turned up, there's about 180 people in the rehearsal room, but he let me off, and we did it. And that was what made the difference. I couldn't shoot it from outside. I had to be in the middle of them. So by the time you get to Waterfall was the first time I had a camera on each person, and you can really feel it, because you can see every look, every moment when they go to make the changes.
Well, that's it. It's like, you said yourself that you didn't want to make a what happened film. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't about that. It was about the now and about the future. And without having to do a sit-down interview with each band member and go through the history of the band, you didn't need that, because you got so much from a look, a glance, a reaction, in that space.
Yeah, I mean, one of the massive things is I just need to get him to stand up, but I don't know if you like the first shot, the slow-mo, but Laurie Rose.
Yes.
DOP. Stand up, Laurie.
Stand up, Laurie.
There he is.
Amazing.
So, getting Laurie coming on board was incredible, because he just gave us that cinematic vision, and it was fantastic.
That opening shot.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
It's ridiculous. I mean, when I sat down on the Sunday night, I think it might have been Laurie came to me and said, we've got this shot. And he was telling me when he walked off, when we were shooting, he'd come off and he said, I got a shot. I shot it in real time, but it's in slow motion. I only saw it in real time, but I think there was something magic. Let's go and have a look. And I watched that, and on that Sunday night at Heaton Park, I said, that's the beginning of the film. That is like...
Well, that kind of relationship with Ian and the band kind of bookends the film in a way, you know what I mean? And that end shot as well, when he hands the phone back sort of thing. And then you use those, then you have that kind of monologue coming in as well and stuff. Where did that come from?
Well, when I first went and watched the band rehearse, I realised for the first time that the Stone Roses wouldn't be the Stone Roses if any single member was not in that room. So if Rennie went or Manny went, there's some bands out there that have got a lead singer you know the name of, and you haven't got a clue who anyone else is in the band.
Yeah.
And a truly great band, you know everybody's name, and if one of those people leaves, they're not that band anymore. And that was kind of, when I had that realisation, and when I sort of saw them rehearsing, and I watched and saw them rehearsing, it was kind of like, I realised that although, like all great creative relationships, they can be volatile, there was something about that combination. So what I did at first was I thought, I want to get something off. I started looking on YouTube and going, I want to find a scientist talking about chemical reactions and, something quite cheesy that was a bit of a shit idea, to be fair. And I came across Hitchcock talking about creativity. And it was one of them things I thought, well, that'll do for now. I'll lay that in. And when I laid it in, it glued to it. It was just like, Jesus, that's insane. Because as Ian when he sort of says a harsh word said by a friend and he looks around at the stage and you don't see, you know, this is a film that holds back information. It doesn't go in and splurge. It's not Celebrity Big Brother talking about filth and shit and just dishing it out in massive measures. It's restrained, and it doesn't give you what you want. It doesn't give people the dirt that they're digging for, but it's there. If you look, it's there.
It's it must be quite emotional for you. Was it an emotional journey for you making this film? Because you were so involved in it. And at what point did you decide you were going to put yourself in the film? Because I love that about it. I love that you're a character in the film and you're part of it.
A lot of it was down to Mark. I didn't want to have myself in the film. I just thought there was this big fat head, like floating around with no hair on it, and it just looked loads bigger than everyone else's head. And I didn't want my head in it. But it was really weird because I had the first screening and I thought, I'm hoping everyone's going to go take the big fat head out. And everyone was kind of going, oh, it's really nice that you're in there. I just couldn't get rid of myself. And in a weird way, I suppose I'm a bit of a jerk in it, really. I'm really like over-emotional and I'm a bit of a prat. I kind of look at some chalkboard writing and I get emotional and excited. And the lovely thing about it is that people say that you can't recapture your youth. But if you look at me in that, I'm 17, you know, so...
Well, this is a question from Pauster, who says, how is it working with musicians instead of actors?
Well, for one thing, I think after This Is England cast are here, and believe me, some of the sticky situations they got into during the shoot, we actually threw them out of their flat after 4 warnings because they were partying that late. And Ian knows this because Ian came round one night because me and Ian played the shortest coppers ever in This Is England 86, and they were riotous. So actually, it was really good because we didn't feel we just followed rather than you felt like with This Is England that you're kind of like a surrogate parent during the shoot, and you have to tell them off and you have to say don't go out in Sheffield and get into a fight and get a black eye because we're shooting this not in out of sync. So actually, I thought it was fantastic because I wasn't worried about what the band were doing when we weren't with them.
Did you have to ask much of them?
I think what ended up happening was a lot of the photographs that people would see in here that no one's maybe seen before, I didn't need to ask of them. You know, John, Ian, and Manny and Rennie, that photographs, they were looking in the attic themselves, and John found that Super 8 footage from Great Yarmouth, and things were, I think once the trust was developed, and I think when we came out of Amsterdam and I hadn't been like, you know, Roger Cook ramming a mic through the door trying to record some arguments, I think they realised that, you know, they could trust me and I was going to stick to my word of what I said I'd do. And so I think after Amsterdam, and when they started to see the film, they literally came to us, and, you know, right up until a few weeks, you know, maybe only a month, 6 weeks ago, I was still getting photographs and mementos and things, and, you know, to make sure that it could be handmade and feel bespoke rather than just, you know, made up of all the same pieces we've all seen.
That interview, oh my God, I've been in that position with a band, believe me, in terms of difficult band. That's absolute priceless. Is the interviewer still around, and did you invite her tonight? Because I would love to meet her.
She's not around, but we didn't know this. We watched it, the whole, and it was just, it makes you want to be a rock and roll star. That makes you want to go, I want to be in a band. And that's what that interview did. But apparently, and I don't know if this is true, but a couple of people that were around at the time said that actually she was trying to provoke a reaction, and apparently Steve Hadge said, whether it was a Steve Hadge story, or I don't know, but was literally doing that. So, I mean, I thought it was, I love the bit where she says, why aren't you number one? And John turns around and says, the record isn't out yet. It's just, it's the best put down ever.
It's brilliant. But so much of what they say then is so relevant now. You know, the whole thing about you know, the still influencing bands and still influencing music and still being important. It's crazy to think that, isn't it?
Yeah, and that was one of the big surprises for me, was that I thought Heaton Park was going to be full of people my age, and there were so many. And at Warrington, you know, all the way through, there's very few bands that come back, come back like the Pistols or, the Specials. They come back and they've got a following. It's very rare that you get a brand new, everyone sort of finds you for the first time again, and that's happened.
Yeah. Got another question from Darren on Twitter. He says, what was your favourite moment whilst with the Stone Roses whilst making the film? We'll get something from each of you on that.
I
Mark?
think, personally for me, the bit where you see Eric Cantona, but it was a beautiful day, and he is a god. He nearly signed for Wednesday, and but we wanted to see him on grass. Seriously, Trevor Francis said that. Anyway, but the best bit for me was, I don't know if you see the sequence where we're in Lyon in this amphitheatre, and they do Resurrection, and everyone was sat, because it had just rained, everyone was sat on these green cushions, like, to keep their arse dry, and they just started throwing them. And they explained, we thought at first, I was filming it thinking, oh my God, they're throwing stuff at the band. But actually, somebody described, said, no, it's like flowers at an opera. And this whole sea of green, I was with Robbie on the mixing desk filming, Shane was down on stage. It was just the most amazing visual, beautiful, in an amphitheatre in the middle of Lyon. So that for me will never leave me. I've still got the green cushion, and it was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen.
Shane, what about for you?
For me, it was Warrington, I think, because that was the first time that I saw them, and I'd waited, what would it be, 22 years to actually see them live. And when they walked out on stage on Warrington, and you can see my reaction, there was something about that gig and the way that became the heart of the film, that it was one of those days where the sun shines and it's going to be a great day, and that was never to be repeated.
Had the band seen the full-length film before tonight, or
not finished?
I mean, they've not seen it mixed, graded. We only finished it 3 weeks ago. I'm not joking, honestly. We were supposed to deliver it. Initial contract with Film 4 was DVD should have been out at Christmas last year. So I apologise
worth waiting
now. But we just got a load of material that was really good, so and Shane worked tirelessly. I mean, him and the editor, especially Matt Gray, who's here, just worked every minute of every day, weekends, nights. I was getting cuts through, and the amount of blood, sweat and tears that went into this is incredible. And I think for me and Shane, like the band have seen it, and we showed all the way through. We had screenings and we showed them, and so that's the first time I think they've seen it actually properly polished, finished. So I hope they enjoyed it.
What has the reaction been through the process? When you've showed them cuts and things, is it
with the band?
Yeah.
I remember the first time we showed them. We had a room in a hotel in town, and they were coming to see it, and I've never been so anxious in my life. And Manny came in and said, I hope you've got a really big pair of scissors, as in, let's start cutting.
Yeah.
And he laughed, and I obviously didn't.
Yeah.
I had no sense of humour. I'd had a humour bypass. And I remember sitting and watching it, and I didn't honestly know whether they hated every second of it, whether they'd loved it. I had no idea, because I was so stressed. And then at the end of it, John sort of turned around and he said, we're probably going to start talking about, can we have this, or, what did you think of that? How did this sound? He said, what I don't want you to think is that we don't like it. He said, because I could talk about the things I don't like for a few minutes, but I could talk about what I love about it for 2 days. And that meant like the world. I suddenly sort of...
Wow. You must have had so many hours of footage, and Matt asked the question, how much footage did you record overall, and how did you go about starting to edit it?
Well, as the producer who's ultimately trying to look after the budget and the schedule, I remember finishing Saturday night, Heaton Park, and the guy who was digitising it said, we've got 360 hours at the moment, and we've still got some more to go. That was before the archive, and I was thinking, that's a lot of footage to go through. So I reckon we ended up with about 500 hours.
Yeah.
And then where do you start? Because you said that after Warrington you knew you had a film, and you knew that was kind of going to be about, you know, the fans were really important to it and stuff like that. And then, I don't know, do you don't storyboard it, but then do you kind of...
Yeah, I think I kind of knew the film was going to be told, by the time I got to the finish, it was going to be told in 3 acts in a way. You know, the first act, the sort of the announcement of the comeback, the building up the rehearsals tied in with the, you know, the history, and that Warrington was a section all by itself. And we've had 4 editors, is it 3 or 4 editors? Is it 4?
3.5.
3.5, a really small guy. But yeah, and so basically different people sort of did different jobs. You know, we had one guy that mainly worked on Fool's Gold because that was a kind of really specialist, you know, thing. And you know, so there was maybe 2 or 3 people that did small sections, but Matt Gray was the guy that had to live with me and my psychotic behaviour over a really long period of time.
In fact, when we were grading the film, because the guy who graded it was the same guy who did This Is England, the TV series.
Yeah.
And he actually said to us, there were more cuts in Fool's Gold than there were in the whole series of This Is England 88.
No way.
Yeah, that's so, yeah.
Yeah, it is, yeah. 35 cameras, baby.
Shake you out. Do you listen to the band or think about the band differently now after making this, after spending so much time with them?
I tell you what's really lovely. My family are here. My daughter, my 14-year-old Evie's here, and what I love is the fact that, I mean, when I get in the car now, I've got 3 kids, and from the 14-year-old, the 9 and 6, like, what do you want to listen to? And it's usually something shite. And now it's like, can we listen to Roses, Daddy? So that's, for me, that's a success for the film.
My job is done. Totally. Have we got any questions from anyone out there? Because we've got some people with microphones. So if the microphone people can find someone with a hand up, and then we can get...
Yeah. First of all, on behalf of everybody in here, thank you very much for doing this tonight.
Yeah, we had... We basically had the choice. I could have, because the sound and everything's been put in just for tonight, and I'm a bit of a perfectionist. And in a room like this, it's like the worst place you can show a film for sound. But the option was either to have a room like this where everyone who was at the premiere was actually at the premiere, or go up the road to an Odeon and have 300 of us in the main room, and then everyone else split all around in different rooms. And we decided, it's like, look, the band and the whole ethos of the band is, it's like, what kind of a premiere would it be if we're all split off in different frigging sections? So, although, you know, it didn't sound quite how I wanted it to sound in places, you know, it had to be this way.
I mean, we did want to have... We started to look at having it in different screens at a massive, like getting a multiplex. And we were just thinking there's going to be a VIP bit, a very VIP, and then there's going to be a... And we just thought, you know, fucking hell, it's about the fans. It's the fans. And we wanted the fans with us, so, yeah. And thanks to the guys who set up for the last 2 days, because they've done an amazing job. Thank you.
Any other questions from out in the crowd before I get some more... Oh, yeah, lady over there. Hello.
Hi.
Speak up, and what's your question?
Hi, Shane. It's for
How you doing?
I'm great, thank you. It's really a question for you, Shane. I followed you from... probably early days. I've loved Wolf Romeo Brass and This Is England, and Dead Man Shoes is my favourite. But I just wondered what's next for you.
You've got the loveliest accent in the world. That's such a lovely voice. I'm writing 2 things. I'm writing the final part of This Is England 90 this year.
Brilliant.
Which just happens to be 1990 Stone Roses are going to be...
Funny you should ask, so someone just says, well, This Is England and This Roses collide on screen.
Without question, yeah.
Hell yes.
And Tomo, who plays me, because I started receding at about 6, and I couldn't grow the bowl, so I sort of compensated with a ginger moustache. And yeah, so he's going to have to go through some trauma. But I'm also writing a film about a cyclist called Tommy Simpson, which is this guy that's been kind of airbrushed out of British history, who died on Mount Ventoux in 1967, and it's a kind of raging bull story set on push bikes. So, yeah, look out for that one, baby.
36 cameras on push bikes.
Yeah.
Amazing. And then we had another question over here. I think it was a lady in... There we go. Man in a white... Oh.
Hi, Shane.
Hi.
Bonjour.
Buongiorno. I noticed that you fitted a little bit of William Burroughs there in your film, and I was wondering what influence William Burroughs had on you and why put it in the film.
To be fair, both the quotes that were kind of in the film, I sort of searched, and William Burroughs was the one quote that, a bit like Hitchcock, I put in almost on a temporary basis. And, you know, Burroughs personally has had no massive effect on me on a personal level, other than when I went round to my friend's house and he was trying to get me to smoke poppy seeds. He was playing various records and things to me. It was both the pieces of Hitchcock and Burroughs are almost... I can't even put into words quite why they fitted and why they stayed in the film. But there's something beautiful about the Burroughs thing that he's talking about. I think there was something in the fact that he's talking about machinery that captures art, you know, a camera, a sort of cinema camera, screens, or talking about them in a really robotic fashion, and that it takes human beings to actually take a guitar and make it sing. And there was something in that. It wasn't really blatant or really obvious, but there was something in the fact that you could have four guitar, you know, a guitar, a bass guitar, a microphone, and a set of drums, but without the people to play them, they're kind of worthless. So,
And that, I mean, that fool's gold at the end of the film. Oh my God! There's not many bands that can do that. You know,
I mean,
the way
it was
that
one
they
of
do
those.
that.
Normally, when you're mixing a film, you get really sick by the end of it of hearing the mix, because you've been in there. We were in there for weeks at Halo, and thank you, and the guys were amazing, by the way, there. And big thanks to Robbie McGrath and Matt Howe, who just did, and John Rod, who just made that sound incredible. But even at the last time that we were watching it, there's like every time I'm thinking I've heard it about 6 times, and then they play the final version at the end of the day, and I'm there. I've got about 50 emails to do, and then I'm there thinking I've got to do these emails. I've got to do these. In fact, 4 minutes in, I'm stood dancing in the mix, and I look across, and Shane's dancing like this as well. It was like it never got sick of it, and it's just beautiful.
The horse box says, will there be more gig footage on the DVD?
So that's a good question. I mean, to be honest, because we only finished the film 3 weeks ago, and literally just needed to both see our kids and our family, wives, and we know there's going to be a DVD out in October, but we've not really got into the nitty gritty. There's a lot of stuff there. There's a lot of options, but yeah, you know, that's the next. Probably start those meetings next week.
And on the similar note, Villa Boy knows, when are you making Made of Stone 2? Properly emotional, he says.
Oh. I mean, someone asked me tonight when I was outside, you know, what band would you do next if the Smiths got back together? And, you know, this was a one-off situation. You know, that I kissed my first posh girl when Waterfall was playing in the background, you know. There'd been hairdressers all the way up to there, and then I had a girl in some tie-dye equipment who was... I told her I was vegetarian, and to try and get in with her. So I was eating hominy pie, front of house, in the canteen, and then Paddy Considine was bringing me sausage sandwiches outside the back of the college. And so there was this beautiful moment where it all came together, and I was snogging her and Waterfall was on. And, you know, that obviously stayed with me. But then she caught me about a week later with this sausage banger and finished with me, because I've been kissing her with my meaty mouth.
Dumped. Have you got another question over here? Did I see, was there a man in a white top or someone? No. There's a man in a leather jacket. Hiya.
Hello, Shane. I'd just like to say, on behalf of everybody here, it's absolutely fucking fantastic.
Oh, thank you, mate.
Yeah!
Thank you.
I'd just like to know, what's your favourite song? Stone Roses song, obviously.
That changes a lot. It's really weird. It kind of changes from moment to moment. I'd say tonight it's Waterfall, and tomorrow it might be something slightly different. It's impossible to pick, mate. It changes day by day.
Mark, have you got a favourite?
It's really weird because I always used to. I mean, my favourite was Made of Stone. Weirdly enough, I just used to love that. But And like in 1989, I was 18, and I went on a kibbutz, and I had 4 cassettes with me, and one of the cassettes was the Roses, you know, was that. So it was like took it round on my Walkman, and I think it was that album. And I love Breaking Into Heaven from the second album. I absolutely adore that track. I think it's just stunning, and you know. So for me, like I say with Shane, it just changes. But what I love is the fact is that I've introduced, again, going back to my mum and dad are here tonight, and because I was away listening to the Roses, and my brother, you know, was up in his room, they knew we were obsessed with them, but they never actually really. And I gave my mum, because she was coming to the premiere, I gave her the CD, and she sent me this lovely text saying, "Oh, I love them. I really love them, Mark." She was dead. So they're just, yeah, it's really hard to pick. I think, I think for me, I'd say something different tomorrow.
Okay. Any more questions from the floor? Lady right down the front here with lovely hair. Go on.
Shane, we all want new stuff. Did you hear anything that was new, and what did you think about it?
Did you hear anything that was new, and what did you think of it?
What, their new material? No, I went round to play the film at one point, and they were sort of on the verge of writing something, but I kind of I never asked the question. I probably should have said, "Please let me hear something," but I know that, I know probably as much as you do that they are writing. When, where, or what, I have no idea when it might come. I never heard anything myself. I'm not pushy enough. I should have asked.
Lady in the second row here, and then we'll go you guys at the back for the last question from the crowd.
What about doing any more documentaries? Do you think that's something that you'll look into in the future?
More documentaries?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, like I said a minute ago, in terms of the Stone Roses, that was a very special, it's like I don't know how I can only go the wrong way, I think, down the hill if I make one for somebody else. The love that I felt for the Roses, the fact that I'd never seen them and I'd given that ticket away, I'd almost be doing the band. I did something else with a disservice. I love documentaries, and I made a documentary about a bare knuckle fighter at the beginning of my career, and I've also made a documentary about my friend Gavin Clark, who's a musician. It would need to be something like that was personal to me, rather than a director for hire, going out to work with Coldplay.
And right at the back, have we got a microphone with those friends?
Hello,
right at the back?
everybody.
Hi.
2 questions in one. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm shouting. Did you watch all 500 hours of footage, and how did you get it down to that amazing film we've just seen?
Yeah, I saw most things. I think when you work it out, it ends up being about 3 or 4 months, 8 hours a day. And I worked on the edit for about a year, I think. I've got kids, I've got a wife and children, so I in the old days, used to have to go to London and do the edit, and, no one would see you. You'd be sniffing liquid gold by a fruit machine, dead lonely. And obviously I've chucked all that into touch now. I'm in rehab. My bum hole's back to normal. So I'd edit. My wife's been unbelievable, because I swear on my life, there was one time when I'd been watching the material, what I thought was about 2 days, and I came back with like a Grizzly Adams beard and hair around the sides, which is where it's all is at the moment. And my eldest son had grown about 3 inches, and it was just heartbreaking. I kind of realised that, and that's what I loved about the band. Everyone's kind of expecting people to be pulling up in Lamborghinis and white powder flying out of windows. But the bottom line is, when you're a father, and that's when people want the album, these people have got families, and, if you're a decent man or a decent human being, you want to see those children. So it took a year, when it maybe in the old days I maybe could have put it together in 5 or 6 months. Yeah, I saw everything. It took a long time, and it was almost impossible to whittle it down. And that's, in a way, if I wanted to retire from making films, I could retire and just keep making films out of what we shot. A sort of Heaton Park film, a Warrington film, a rehearsal film. There's so much in there. But in the end, you have to make choices, and, you have to pick. It's really hard.
Well, I think we all definitely felt that you put your heart and soul into it. I mean, it was so personal and moving and brilliant. Can we have a huge round of applause, please, for Mark Harbert and Sharon Meadows?